man, it's hard for him to walk. You know, it's like everything is in pain. He can't hardly move that good.
You talk about an old school fighter, man. That guy was a badass.
He's a bad motherfucker. He's a real old school man.
He's there at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The very, very, very early days. Mark Coleman, too.
Yeah.
Look, Mark Coleman's got a celebrity boxing match in October against Montel Griffin. Montel Griffin, who fought Roy Jones Jr., who was a light heavyweight champion.
Is that why Mark's been training? Okay.
Yeah. Hammer House for life! Yeah, if you watch his Instagram,
you know what?
He's a
he was
maniac.
one of my opponents to make the Olympics.
Was he really?
Yeah, him and Mark Kerr.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were badasses. Those two gave me the worst problems in 1993 and 94.
Really?
They're the ones that were beating me. And then I ended up beating them in 95, 96. But I went through, if you saw my documentary, it's about my training and what I did. What I was doing was exhaust training. That's when you train till you're exhausted, and that's when the training actually begins. And it's almost a form of torture. I learned it from the University of Iowa head wrestling coach Dan Gable.
Yeah. Dan Gable's
he
a
taught
fucking
his wrestlers
man.
this, and it's about staying in someone's face and just keep going at it. Just never back off. Just stay in there and just keep hand fighting and keep attacking. And that's what I was doing. I was staying on my opponents and getting them tired. Once I got tired, I was scoring. And so I wasn't the biggest or the fastest or the strongest or the most technical, but what I knew I could be is the most well-conditioned.
Here it is.
This is Kerr. This is Mark Kerr. Yep.
Wow.
This is Mark Kerr when he was a normal size.
Yeah.
But Mark Kerr went on to fight in the UFC and went on to fight in Pride. Oh, my God.
Oh, the smashing machine.
When he was the smashing machine, yeah. That documentary is insane. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I did.
The documentary on Kerr?
Yeah, I did.
Mark Kerr submitted Dan Bobish in the UFC. I was there for this fight. He got on top of him and he stuck his chin in Bobish's eye socket.
Oh.
Grabbed the back of his head and drove his fucking chin into his
and
eye socket.
he has this pointy chin too, man.
And he was just a giant of a man.
He is.
Show Mark Kerr in his prime. I mean, his trap started at the top of his ears.
I know. He was an animal.
He was so fucking huge.
He got, listen, by the time 96 came around, he didn't look like that anymore. He was like 250, and he wasn't that big. He wasn't
Look
that
at
big.
the size of him, bro.
You got to be 300 pounds there.
He was a monster. Yeah. He was a monster. And then he was a monster in Pride. He was such a machine.
Yeah.
But he's another guy who fell victim to pain pills.
Yes, he did.
And what's crazy about that documentary, The Smashing Machine, is they caught him in his prime, and what they were documenting in that documentary was a guy who was like this unstoppable force. Mm-hmm. They didn't know that he was at the verge of collapse. They didn't know that he was in the middle of this pain
they were
addiction.
just doing the documentary because of how dominant he
was.
Wow.
Yes. The documentary originally was just about this guy who's this unstoppable force who was competing in Japan in the height of Pride. In the height of Pride, they were doing this like Japan is so different. When we have the UFC in Japan, they're so knowledgeable and so respectful. It's such a part of the culture that, you know, the matches were huge. They did the Saitama Super Arena. It was 90,000 people. And that was when Kerr was in his prime. Yeah. So what they were documenting was this guy from America, this insane wrestler, this gigantic man that they call the Smashing Machine, going over there and dominating. And they caught him right when it was all falling apart.
Oh, and then that's where the story changed, right?
Yes, yeah. And that's the documentary. Wow. And it is about pain pills. It's about pain medication. I mean, I think he was on a bunch of different things. But it was just dealing with the constant
He
injuries.
was the most talented individual I've ever stepped on the mat with. I mean, he was really good.
Really?
Really good, yeah. Yeah, he won the NCAAs at 190. My senior year, I won at heavyweight. And then he moved up to my weight class.
Wow.
Yeah. He just kept getting bigger and bigger. I mean,
yeah.
Kid's 6'4", so he had a lot of range, you know,
yeah.
long arms, and you knew he could fill in. I didn't know he was going to end up being 310 pounds. So.
Yeah, and then back then, you know, if you were either going to go into pro wrestling or you were going to go into MMA, and back then, hey woman, since your man ain't got no heart, why don't you go to my apartment tonight? I'll show you a real man.
There you go.
What? Fuck you.